All right, guys, so we're gonna do a little bit of accuracy testing. I've got this set up at about 100 yards, or not about, it is 100 yards exactly from the little green bag right there. Got a shoot and see pasty target sitting up. There is already a group from ball ammo in the center on this. I'm going to be going for top right diamond on the shoot and see here. The group that's in the center is just from ball ammo. Take it to a match this weekend, so I wanted to see what it was doing at this distance. But let's go ahead. Let's see how this thing performs. Oh, left edge of that top right diamond, left tip. Let's go there and take a look at it. All right, so this is the group that I just shot. I was aiming for the tip, so you can see there's a tip of the diamond here. I was aiming for that left tip. Just kind of gave me a little bit more of a finer aiming point. This here being the ball group that is also 5 rounds. The ball ammunition group, I fired that one off camera. But the ball ammunition group, 2, 3, 4, 5, I would say is about 1.5 MOA, give or take. So pretty good group for ball. And this one here, I'm gonna say that's probably about 0.8 if I had to guess. I'll actually get the get an actual grouping of it on my little Range Buddy app. It tells me exactly the dimensions and if there are any adjustments that need to be made. But again, guys, this is 77 grain AAC. This ammunition I have found across the board is not the best match grade performer, but it is good enough. With federal gold medal match, for instance, I'm positive that I could probably do a half MOA group at this distance with this gun. But the 77 grain stuff is what from AAC is what I intend to use. So that's what I demonstrated here with it today. But as you can see, 55 cents a round. The stuff does not at all perform bad. Hey guys, what's up and welcome back. So today I'm going to do a quick video and kind of do a two-parter, or I guess two subject matters in this particular video, and that is one going to be the revamp of my 14.5. I call it my 14.5 2.0, and that's going to be some changes that have happened to it, as well as my opinion on what it takes to get into a good quality fighting rifle. I just kind of wanted to give you guys my formula and the parts that I personally select, and these parts are something that's going to hold up with pretty much any of the top tier XYZ manufacturers that you're going to come across, whether it be LMT, LWRC, Noveske, Knives Armament, so on and so forth. So to start it off, the reason that I have made some changes to my 14.5 is not because that there are anything particularly wrong with the parts that I had on there before, but more so because the barrel that I had in it had reached the end of what I would call its accurate service life, not necessarily its overall service life. The barrel probably could have gone 2, if not 3 times as many rounds as it actually went before actually having to change it out. But I did notice my groups start to open up, and for the use case for this particular gun, that is the reason why I decided to swap some things out. So originally I had a Roscoe Manufacturing 14.5 Bloodline barrel in here. Those barrels out of the box are extremely accurate barrels. There's nothing really wrong with them, other than the fact that personally I did not want to go back to a government profile with the rebarrel Reason being, once you start to get those barrels really hot with the strings of fire, they start to kind of, and it's been across the board for me with every government profile barrel I've owned that I've noticed, is they start to have weird strings, and it's kind of something that's been known, but just for me personally, that's why I didn't stick with them. Now, what I did end up doing was going with a 14.5 Criterion core barrel. So this is a chrome lined barrel. It's a 1-in-8 twist. And one of the things that I really like about these is, even with the small profile that you're going to have at the gas block journal being 0.625 as opposed to a 750 with the Bloodline series, I was actually able to test that out the other day, is you're not going to notice the stringing quite as quickly as I was with the government profile barrels. These will eventually do it. You're not going to really escape it unless you start to get into like an 8, a 0.8, and into 0.8s and 0.9s diameters for your barrel. But that is the thing I noticed. And one of the other really cool things about it is these barrels tend to keep the mass, the material, where it really matters and not where it doesn't. So government profile barrels, if you look at them, they'll taper down. It'll be a nice skinny profile. And then when it gets to the gas block, it'll bounce up to about a 0.8 diameter, and then it'll step down to a 750 at the gas block, and then just kind of maintain that profile all the way to the muzzle. So you've got all this mass out at and forward of the gas block towards the end of the gun, and that's going to do a couple of things. One, it's going to cause weird accuracy issues, because as the barrel starts to heat down, the weight that's towards the end of it, it's going to cause the barrel to start throwing flyers due to the excess heat buildup. As well as the end of the barrel or end of the gun is going to be a lot heavier. Not that I can't lift the weight, but I did want the weight to be a little bit more towards the back to make it a little bit easier to actually wield the rifle. Another really thing is the Criterion core barrels being chrome lined is going to be a little bit better corrosion resistant. Something that if you live out here in Florida that you'll notice is with the humidity and the amount of rain and all that stuff we get, we do a lot of shooting in the rain and humidity. I was starting to notice quite a bit of rust happening across all of my melanite barrels, and I wanted to put the chrome lining in the chamber just because it adds that little bit extra protection. The melanite does good as long as you swap the barrel out after the fact, but next thing I noticed, I would not have to actually worry about rust quite as much inside of the system. So I went with a Criterion core barrel, and then I also went with a Sons of Liberty Gunworks bolt carrier group. The reason I went with them is every time I buy a new barrel, I buy a new bolt carrier group as well. I like to swap those parts out. Bolts in particular are perishable items, and just go ahead and get the carrier as well while you're at it. So the reason I went with them is, one, Sons of Liberty has a really good warranty on their parts. They're one of the only, I think they're the only company out there that actually warranties wear and tear on parts. If you shoot as much as I do, those different things really start to add up. So as I wear out bolts, as I break parts, I can actually just contact them in for a warranty, take the spare that I've got in the grip, throw it in the gun, and then when I get the warranted bolt back, I'll be able to throw that back in the grip and just be able to keep rotating them out like that. It just kind of helps me out in the long run with there. And also, the Sons of Liberty bolt carrier groups come with parts that I put in them anyways. It's particularly going to be the extractor and ejector spring. I do an enhanced power extractor spring, the 5 coils, as well as an enhanced power ejector spring, just kind of help give it a little more oomph to get the casing out of the chamber, especially in adverse conditions. So as far as my personal formula for what it is I do to build a good quality fighting rifle. So starting with the base, you notice here that I do have, on both of these examples, I have Aero Precision lower receivers. Back about 6 or 7 or so years ago when I bought these, I highly recommended Aero to people, but since COVID happened, you really started to notice a downtick in their quality control. Both of these receivers gauged out fine, they're fine, everything's in spec with them. But personally, I no longer recommend buying Aero parts just because of that. I don't want to have to worry about something being out of spec. So what I have actually moved to is BCM receiver sets. So new guns, whether I get a new upper or new lower, and these particular ones, whenever I redo the uppers, I buy a BCM stripped upper receiver, and these are, and one of the really good things about the BCMs is they're going to be a thermal fit upper. So whenever you actually install the barrel into that upper receiver, it's going to be almost as if you've got a bedded barrel in there. And that's just going to add into the rigidity, overall rigidity of the system, as well as the accuracy that you're able to get out of them. Now, it is a little bit more of a pain to actually install, but if you do it right, like shown in the video, if you heat the receiver extension properly, I use a map torch. You can use a propane torch or the freezer method if you so choose, but the map torch works best for me. You can see it just slips right in. Now, as far as the I would say the primary wear or the most important parts of the gun are going to be the heart, which is the barrel, the gas system, and the bolt carrier group. You want to make sure that you're getting good quality barrels from reputable manufacturers. I would not buy a Arrow barrel. I like to tend to stay away from Ballistic Advantage as well. Their quality control has also dropped off here in recent years, so personally I stay away from them. But as far as the barrels go, my go-to recommendation when they're building a gun is going to be a Roscoe Bloodline Melanite barrel. The reason being, those barrels are gassed in such a way to where you're not so overgassed it's going to be beating the system apart, but you're not so undergassed that you're going to notice that when you get into adverse conditions, you're going to start having issues with the actual barrel running reliably. Once you start getting a lot of carbon buildup and everything inside the system, you'll notice that guns that are gassed quote unquote properly by a lot of the mainstream guys that like to get that perfect 3 o'clock ejection suppressed, you'll notice that those guns tend to start to lock up and have a lot of issues. With Roscoe barrels, I have not noticed that on any of them, and we have run the absolute piss out of these barrels. The previous ones, the rear barrel with this had was either 23 or 26,000 rounds. And again, the barrel wasn't burnt out, but because I shoot suppressed, I wanted to go ahead and swap that out, because a lot of times when a barrel gets shot out, the throat gets eroded, that bullet will want to come out sideways and you'll get keyholing and it'll tear your suppressor up. So kind of the reason I changed that out there. But throughout the service life of that gun, I never had an issue with reliability. The gun just ran 100%. I did have some ammunition related malfunctions, but as far as the gun itself goes, everything ran great. Bolt carrier groups. So you can take your pick from any of the Sons of Liberty, BCM, or even Roscoe Manufacturing. If you're buying a sauce pack from them, they're all going to be really good bolt carrier groups, but you want to make sure that you're staying with reputable manufacturers like that. I don't like getting into the weird coatings like the titanium nitride, especially nickel boron. Stay away from nickel boron, but if you're going to do melanite, chrome, or phosphate chrome lined, either of those 3 styles of coatings are going to do really, really well, and you're not going to really notice any issues out of them. Now, as far as gas systems go, I tend to stick with BCM for both my gas blocks as well as my gas tubes. Everything works really well from there. This has a BCM block and tube, as does this, even though this has a Roscoe bolt and a barrel as well. Now, one of the other really important things, and it's something that you can take most guns if you're having issues with it cycling, is going to be in the ass end of the rifle here. So every single rifle, no matter the barrel length, I'm going to start with, and I'm going to recommend somebody start with, a blue Springco enhanced power spring. Reason being, a lot of times you'll notice, especially whenever you're sending that gun into battery, like for instance, we had our end of year shoot for this, and we were running 1,000, 1,500 rounds through our gun in a day, and through that end of year shoot, it was raining pretty much the entire day. So whenever you're shooting suppressed and it's raining all day and you're getting water and carbon buildup and all the excess gunk that gun is kicking out from being suppressed inside the chamber, one thing that I would notice is guys that were having standard power springs were having trouble getting that bolt to go home all the way. They have to tap and rack it, and when you had a full magazine, would have problems, as well as when you start to really run that gun fast, you'll start to have malfunctions. And one of the really cool things about the enhanced power spring is not only does it provide more resistance on the rearward movement of the bolt, it's allowing you more force going forward, and it's able to actually push and force that bolt through all that gunk and able to help it run more reliably. The Springcos, I could take a gun that's having issues, throw a Springco blue in it with the failure to feeds, and it'll just punch it right into the chamber. Even guns such as the Knight's Armament, one of my guys, he runs a Knights, and that's an issue that he was having as well. And once he changed out to the blue Springco, the issues had gone away. Those things are also going to, if you like to have a little bit softer of a recoil impulse, it's going to help it out actually restricting the gas system. And that is what I recommend if you're going to try and tune your gun a little bit. Start with a buffer. Don't start with trying to restrict stuff up. Starting with a buffer weight and a good spring is going to be a better option than starting with your gas system. And definitely stay away from adjustable gas blocks when running these styles of rifles. As far as buffer weights go, I stick with the shorter guns, so a 10.5, 11.5, 12.5. I will generally tell people to go to an H3 buffer with the blue Springco, and then with the 14.5s, I'll tell people to go with an H2 or an H, depending on your barrel. Now, this is a Criterion barrel, and I have an H2 buffer in here as well, and this thing runs extremely well. Now, my 16-inch gun with an H2 buffer, It does not lock to the rear reliably every time, but it does function, so I dropped it down to a standard carbine weight buffer, and it runs perfectly fine. All three of these gun having blue spring coat springs. But other than that, guys, the system itself isn't really complicated. Don't let guys get you into, oh, you got to buy this $3,000 rifle to have anything that's actually worth the crap. This system that I have found has worked incredibly well. I would say that we probably shoot our guns and run our guns harder than the majority of people out there, and this is something that I found that has worked incredibly well. So if you do have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I appreciate you guys watching.
Fight.
That's enough cardio.
That's enough, ain't it? Making it tough. You wore out yet?
Ain't that bad.